Hi, welcome to Expressions. I'm Julie Robbins. This is Blucher Custom Boot Company in Okmulgee, one of the oldest custom boot shops in the nation. Everything here is handmade by master bootmakers, and we're going to introduce you to these craftsmen as they take us through the entire bootmaking process. Our first guest today is Clyde Aldridge, and Clyde is the owner-operator of Blucher Custom Boot Company here in Okmulgee. Clyde, thank you for being on the program today.
Welcome.
And this company originated in 1915, is that correct?
It originated in 1915 in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Oh.
And the originator was a gentleman by the name of Gus C. Blucher.
Oh, okay, and that's where we got the name.
Carried on.
And you took over in 1997?
Yes.
Okay, and why the interest in boots, in a boot company?
Well, I'm a history buff, for one thing, and I have a certain vein of nostalgia, and the cowboy boots were something that interested me. I grew up on a stock farm, not as a ranch as they have now, but I had an interest in it, and it appeared the company was not going to continue in existence unless something was done to it or for it, either one. So we bought it and decided to move it to Okmulgee to give it a better site than Fairfax, near the OSU boot school. And we've had it in operation now since about February a year ago. Happily making boots.
Well, great. And you were talking a little bit about history. I'm looking at these boots right here. These are an old style, aren't they?
Those are boots that we make for reenactment, like Civil War reenactment, or some other historical situation. And they have different kinds of heels to them. They're very high, as they wore at that time.
And they're actually kind of in style now. And these boots right now, these are yours, aren't they?
Those are a product of one of our bootmakers, Lewis, who you'll talk to later. Lewis is one of the best in the business at making a decorative boot. And these are good examples of
Right, these are almost a three-dimensional, the way they're
Yes.
stitched.
You find that the part is raised here, you can feel it. These are all, there's no tooling on this boot. This is all stitching and braiding and this sort of thing. But it's an unusual example of what they can do.
And another unusual example, I'm seeing flashing lights up here. Let's bring this one down, this Christmas boot. Look at this. I love it.
Well, again, this is an example of something that the craftsman can do, starting from down here all the way up, and the flashing lights. This is Tina Garcia's boot, and she's the wife of our head bootmaker. And he had promised to make these boots for her for some time. So he finally had to make the boots this past Christmas. And the little lights blink off and on, little battery operated inside. And they are attention getters.
So this is really a prime example that you guys can pretty much make anything, can't you?
Yes, we think we can.
Yeah. Oh, so is this where the process starts?
This is the fitting room.
Okay.
It starts out simply or complicated. Sometimes the customer comes in the front door and says, I want to buy a pair of boots. And there's no sales, there's nothing. He knows what he wants. And at that point, you call the bootmaker to measure him. Says, come in and have a seat in the fitting room, and we'll get the bootmaker for you. And the bootmaker will trace his right foot and left foot on it.
Okay. So you do trace both, not just one?
Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. And he also takes measurements on his instep and the height of the foot, all of the pertinent things that they'll need to make a last or a form for that particular foot. And the next one is, what does he want in the way of leather? And
look what he has to choose from.
this is a rack of typical leathers running from ostrich at that end on through various kinds of calf and finally down to kangaroo. Kangaroos are very soft skin they use for tops on it.
And you said you've even had a request for alligator too?
We have requests for all kinds of exotics, including the hornback alligator, which are the red fellows. You see a made-up pair The black hornbacks right over here.
Oh, these are beautiful. Wow.
Those are unusual, and they're size 15.
Yeah, very unusual. They're huge.
This is an example of everything that we make. And some things that we have made and don't make today.
Okay.
And we will retrieve all of the old styles if the customer wants it.
And that's not, when we say style, that's not just the decoration on it, but the heel and everything, right?
Well, the style starts, these primarily refer to the top when they say style 64.
Okay.
Then they've got to pick out the heel, whether it's high or low, and
Right.
the toes is round or pointed. The pulls, they want them up above or below. The indentation down at the top, where they want that deep, the scallop, and all the other details.
So once they made all these selections, then where do you go?
Then we go back to the shop and try to make it.
Well, let's head back that way. Oh, wow, Clyde. This looks like a bunch of shoes. What is this?
Well, these are called last, L-A-S-T, and they're the form which you must have to make the bottom of the boot.
Oh, okay.
And these are all individual. There's particular sizes. There's some coding on them, including the man's name in it. Up here is Marion Allen. There's some other verbiage in here. That's probably book 16, page 179. For that, in addition to it's a 6D.
Which is the size?
That's the size, yeah.
And you said these numbers are in a book? What book are you talking
They're
about?
all in a set of books, which you see part of them here and part over here. There's one of those are fitting books.
Okay.
And there was one of those, one page in those books for every pair of boots that were ever made.
Or is this what's on the table here?
This is a group of them on the table. Starting with this first group over here are from 1915.
Oh, man.
And this was book 2 of Mr. Blucher's first work. And they're all typical. This was a man by the name of Garrett, who was an early day lawman, not from New Mexico, but another one, in which he bought a style 50. Cost $15.
Goodness.
It was
You
delivered
sell one
out.
for $15 now?
That buys the thread. It was delivered in August of 1915. And these others are just examples of the same thing. Nothing unusual, except that they only did one measurement of 1 foot,
okay.
and mirror image the other foot at the time. Up on the top are boots that are old boots.
Used, right?
They have been severely used in it. Some of them have funny stories with them, some don't. And
Okay, now what about these boots right here on the end, for example?
those boots belong to an unnamed gentleman in Goshen, Utah. And they came to us because his wife ran off with his best friend,
Oh, no.
which was bad enough. But the worst part was she took his Blucher boots.
That's what he didn't like, right?
He didn't like that because all of a sudden he is out of his boots. So he sent these to get a pattern made. And we made a last off of this fit. And the tops weren't worth salvaging. So he now is around sporting brand new boots. Whether he has a new wife or not, I'm not sure.
Our next guest is James Smith, aka Smitty. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, ma'am.
And you were the first step in the boot making process, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, where do we go from here?
Well, the first thing, I get a yellow production ticket from the front office, which has all my specs that I need to
That
cut
you
out.
go by.
Right, to cut out the boot uppers. The first thing I do, I come over here and I make a paper pattern, as you see here, which I cut my boot tops from. Now I'll go in the room over here and I'll select the leather that the customers picked out. Well, from the leather room, we come out here and I take my paper pattern, lay the leather out, and cut it out accordingly,
All right.
all the way around, cut out all 4 of my tops.
Okay.
Then from there, we come over here, and I've already cut out my lining. This is lining leather.
All right.
We line everything with that, as you
So
can see.
okay, it's the back of that. All right.
Then, our paper pattern, And we've already punched out on the sewing machine our sewing pattern.
And why do you do that? Why do you make the holes?
Well, that's so that the baby powder that we use will fall through the holes. And as you see here, I brush this on, and this will make a perfect image on the boot top for me.
So you don't have to actually draw on.
Right. I'll take the boot top over to one of the top stitching machines. Sit down here, and we put on our many rows of colored stitching that the customer either picks out or the bootmaker, as you see I'm doing here.
Oh, wow. And this isn't exactly a new sewing machine, is it?
No, it's not. Most of these sewing machines are around 80 years old.
My goodness. So there's no, you know, the new sewing machines have the special stitch. It just does everything for you. So you have to have quite a talent. How long have you been doing it?
20 years.
Oh, my goodness. And you started in this business, why?
It just really interested me. The cowboy boots, how they were made, how they're put together. It really fascinated me, footwear in general.
Now, Smitty, this looks pretty difficult to me, but I know you said it's fairly simple, right?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, it gets challenging. As you can see right here is an example of many rows of stitching done in many different colors.
And how difficult is that stitching? Of course, not to you.
It gets very difficult. You really have to know what you're doing.
And is all that done on the machine, or is some of it done by hand?
No, it's all done on the top machine right here. One row at a time, one color at a time.
Okay, Smitty, how long would it take you to do that right there?
Basically, I would spend about 8 hours on this pair of boots right here for 4 boot tops.
My goodness. So a lot of work is dedicated to just one set of boots, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
My goodness. So what other steps do we have besides that? What's the next step?
Well, from here we can come over. I also cut out the vamps while I was cutting out the tops.
Oh, okay.
And this gentleman here.
And you said vamps?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what a vamp is.
That is the upper of the boot. It goes on the foot. This is a vamp with its lining. Here's the actual vamp.
And I know you have baby powder on that also.
Yes, it acts as a dry lubricant because we're going to put it in a crimping jaws. And what this machine will do is give the vamp a basic shape.
And the vamp kind of goes on the toe of the, or around? Oh, okay, you have an example
As you
there.
can see here, it's stretched on the board with its basic shape.
Oh, okay.
Patrick just eases that down in there, being careful not to use too much muscle on it or we'll tear the leather up.
So is the leather treated with anything before you do this?
Well, it has to be wet with just plain water.
Okay.
Now, after the vamp is removed from the crimper, we put it on the crimp board and stretch it to give it this permanent shape.
So use a clip? Oh, okay. Clip to hold it on there?
Yes, ma'am. That holds it in place. And then he'll go down the sides of it and stretch it onto the board. Here's one hanging here that he's already done. As you can see, it's stretched down both sides and creased in the middle and has the basic shape of a boot vamp. Well, from crimping, we come back over here,
Okay.
and the boot vamp has to be what we call reblocked, which is basically cutting the tongue shape into it. Then it's fit onto the boot top, pasted into place, and then has to be sewn.
So this is another, oh, this looks like an older sewing machine.
It is. This one was built prior to the First World War,
Goodness.
and it still, as you can tell,
Works.
yeah, works real well. The vamps and counters, these are the hard counters.
Okay.
Now onto this are the soft counter, as you see here. They're then fit on and sewn. All this has to be sewn together along with the lining
My
for the
goodness.
vamps, which will fit in
Layers
here.
and layers, right?
Yes, ma'am. It's like this. Fits in, and it's also sewn. Then from this machine, once the vamps and counters are all sewn on, we put the top together with the outside in,
Okay. Oh, so you're doing everything inside out then? Okay, all right.
and it's brought over here to this machine. This is an American straight needle, a harness machine, and it uses hot wax. Basically, though, you take it and you sew down this side, sew down both sides. That side, then this side. Then from there, the boot is taken over here and turned right side out. The pull straps are sewn on, and this is the way that I will give them to Luis Ramirez
Okay.
to be lasted.
All right. Well, when we return, you're going to meet Luis and see more of the boot making process. Welcome back. Before you meet Luis, I'm going to introduce you to Cricket. And Cricket, thank you for being on the program. And now what are you doing here? You work on the last, is that what it is?
Yes, ma'am. What I do is I fit the last for the customer, where the measurements of the book are transferred to the form of a person's foot.
Okay.
Like this person has heavy bunions, hammer toes, and a knot on the outside and a very high instep.
Well, Cricket, how do you build this up, though?
Okay.
Do you start with something like this as an example?
Yes, ma'am. What I do is I look at the person's outline, and I see all of the high spots on the person, and then I start with a clean last. Once I get the clean last, then I start looking if it's long enough, wide enough, and from there I start cutting little pieces of leather and gluing them in the last, shaping them, and making sure that they're nice and smooth, and try to compare with the information that the person that fitted the customer writes down as far as notes.
My goodness. So I guess depending on how many things you have to add, it takes quite a while, doesn't it, to do this?
To get a good measurement, you have to take your time, and you're looking at like 3 to 4 hours per customer. Once I fitted the last of the customer, it's got the size, the number, and the build-ups that the last fitter did. And Luis will cut a double channel insole and prepare it to do what he's doing right now.
Okay.
He's in lasting the boot. Luis will last the boot according to the draft of the heel. If the customer wants an 1 5/8" heel, he'll last the boots for an 1 5/8". If it's 2 1/4", 2 1/4, and we make sure that the boot sits straight up and down. It takes like half a dozen pulls to get a good straight boot, and the leather's wet and it stays overnight 8 hours to dry.
So there's no really a rush process doing that, afraid of the leather to dry. It takes a while for it to dry.
Now
right?
we case our leather before it gets stretched and pulled, and we work the leather while it's wet, and then the drying process, it takes overnight. We won't touch this boot till tomorrow.
Okay.
Once it's good and dry, then we take the other steps. What he's doing right now, he's measuring the soft counter and the vamp, where he has to pull down so much so you won't get blisters inside your foot.
Oh.
Around the ankle part.
You can tell Luis has been doing this for quite a while, right?
Luis-
He's pretty quick at it.
He's been doing this for 32 years. He's an all-around bootmaker. He works in the upper department, and he helps him in the bottom department.
My goodness.
And that's very unusual to find a bootmaker that can just fit into any step in the bootmaking.
We want to say that the reason why you're speaking for Luis is his English isn't perfect, right? So he feels more comfortable with you
Yes,
talking.
and he's a little bashful of cameras.
And since you guys do such a good job, you have actually celebrities that you do boots for, don't you?
We have quite a few celebrities, from the rodeo business to entertainers, just about anybody that.
Well, I know I saw a picture of Reba McEntire out there a while ago.
We made boots for Reba McEntire. We have made boots for Don McLean, Ben Johnson, Charlie Daniels,
Wow.
and some people from Russia, and just all over the world.
Hey, Cricket, what is this step that Luis is doing?
Okay, this step is we put in the box toe, and it's soaked in a liquid where it gets soft, and when it gets dry, it gets hard as a rock.
Okay. Oh, that's what's hard at the toe of a boot then, right?
the toe.
Okay. Okay, Cricket, so 20 minutes has gone by, and we're ready to put it in this machine here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Show me how this works.
Okay.
And now, why are we putting in this machine?
Okay, this machine will shape your toe.
Okay.
Like this customer wants a medium round toe, and that's the shape that we're going to give him.
Okay.
And then the heel part, this thick leather, is going to be shaped down so it can fit snug on his heel of the customer, because right now it's loose.
Okay.
And I'm going to put it in here and get it started.
This is another antique machine, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. It's a real old machine. It's got all kinds of little adjustments for the toe. And then you kick your toe up. You adjust it.
Okay, why are you taking the nails out?
The nails are taken out so that I can start shaping the toe and start getting all the wrinkles out of the leather so it can be a nice round toe, and then I put my wire to shape it. This holds your insole from curling up, and this is what takes all the wrinkles out of your leather, and then you bring it back up here and you pick it up and you bring the jaws inside the boot in the channel, and you press it down and hold it. You loosen that, kick it with your hand, with your knees. Then you get your pliers and you pull it back and you hold the leather. You get a 6-ounce tag. And you do the other side and you hold it. Now you get your wire that shapes and holds your leather and the toe, and you feel it that it's all the way down inside, and you pull and you let go of the jaws enough for that wire to slide in, and you can hear it pop when it does that. You press it down again,
Wrap it around a nail.
wrap it around the nail, twist it and cut it. And now comes your shaping of the heel. The heel has also to be shaped like the toe. And you tack your heel with a tack gun.
Oh, that automatically does it, huh?
It holds it down and makes a nice, good, tight heel on the back where a customer will not have play. And you tack it, and then you kick it and you release the whole boot. Oh boy.
Hey,
shape of your heel.
ooh, yeah.
In the shape right here.
Oh, that looks great. So then when we're done with the machine, then where do we go?
Once we are done with this, we trim the excess leather. Okay. We let this dry overnight and we trim the excess leather, which will be something like this. And then we sew your welts. Your welts and your bottoms and your tops, or stitch with this machine back here, which is your welt machine.
Oh, all right.
That's where it sews all the way around and down on the bottom of your channel. And you turn it up.
Oh.
This is what holds your uppers and your bottoms together on a pair of boots. Okay. Once we do this, it runs on hot wax. Everything is operated on hot wax. After we do this, our soles are being laid. And they have been laid, they have been stitched and trimmed, and then Hurdy will start building the heels.
Okay. So that's what he's doing now, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's what he's.
And I guess a heel really has to go on there perfect, doesn't it?
It's got to be, if the customer calls for a 2-inch heel, we have to get a heel block for a 2-inch heel. Once he sets the heels, then he takes it to the leveling machine.
Okay, Cricket, what is he doing now?
Okay, now over here he's got another pair of boots that now he's leveling to set the foundation of the heel. This particular pair of boots calls for 1 7/8 undershot heel. Undershot, it's tapered in the back, and it's a high heel with a narrow rubber cap. And he's getting the leveling for that particular height of heel, where the boot will sit straight and level with the bottom of the sole, what he's doing right now. Once he does that, once the heels have been shaped and leveled, is the finishing department.
Oh, okay.
Which the finishing department is where we finish out all of our boots.
Oh, look at that.
The boots have been dressed in the bottoms and polished out and stretched to the measurements. And this is the last step. This is where we send them out to the front so that the customer can try them on.
So by the finishing department, you mean they're finished?
They're completely finished, and then after all these steps in boot making comes the good part. See if the boots will fit.
That's right. Well, speaking of finished, we're finished with the program now. And Cricket, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for taking us through part of the process. And to everyone here at Blucher Custom Boot Company in Okmulgee, you guys have done a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for watching Expressions, and we hope to see you next week.